Welcome, and thank you for being with us tonight for the Foothill-DeAnza Community College District 5 Candidates Forum for the November 5th election. I'm Sandra Martinetti, a member of the League of Women Voters, and I'm the moderator of this forum. The League of Women Voters is a nationwide organization that was founded in 1920 after women won the right to vote. The League envisions a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate. The League is nonpartisan, meaning we neither support nor oppose candidates or parties. Our organization has two distinct roles. One is advocacy for public policy issues that we have studied and developed formal positions. The other is voter service, which brings voters impartial information on issues and candidates. The Voter Services team organized this forum so voters can learn about the candidates running to represent you on the Foothill-DeAnza College District Board. Those candidates are in alphabetical order: Terry Godfrey and Forrest Peterson. This evening we are hosting a forum, not a debate. There is no rebuttal and no personal attacks. Candidates have been asked to focus on their own campaigns. For this Zoom webinar, only the candidates and the moderator will have their microphones activated. Find a recording of this forum on our website, lwvpaloalto.org, and on our YouTube channel. Whenever this recording is aired, it must be shown in its entirety, so no candidate statements are taken out of context. We'll wrap up the forum by 8 p.m. We will keep time using a computerized stopwatch. The candidates have agreed to respect our time limits. In lieu of opening statements, each candidate will give a 1.5 minute description of their qualifications to serve in this office. A question and answer period follows. Candidates will be called on in alternating order. For each question, candidates will have just 1 minute. Candidates may give shorter answers, which may allow for more questions. Questions for this forum have been solicited in advance from all of those who signed up to attend. During the forum, attendees can send live questions by email to forumquestions@lwvpaloalto.org. Find this email in the chat box. Note that the audience members cannot post a comment or a message in the chat box. In lieu of a closing statement, for the final question, we will ask, what question do you wish we had asked in this forum that we didn't ask? This gives candidates an opportunity to talk about an issue or legislative area they feel deserves more attention. Each candidate for the closing statement will have 1.5 minutes to answer in reverse order from the opening statement. So, and we'll start with an opening statement. Please describe your qualifications to serve as a trustee on the Foothill-DeAnza Community College Board representing District 5. Ms. Godfrey, please begin.
Thank you, Sandra. And first, let me thank the Palo Alto League of Women Voters for hosting this forum and for hosting the other forums you are. Your volunteers are amazing, and this is really a great community service. So thank you. And thank you to those of you who have logged on to listen to what Forrest and I have to say. I'm Terry. I'm a 25-year resident of Palo Alto. I'm a first-generation college graduate. I'm an experienced CFO. I'm a former Palo Alto School Board president and a passionate advocate for students and public schools. I was raised in California's public schools from kindergarten through my BS in mathematics at UC Irvine, through my MBA in finance at UCLA. That that schooling changed the trajectory of my life, and it is my passion to create these opportunities for all students. I took these degrees out into the workforce. I worked at Intel and Xerox and the Stanford Graduate School of Business. I'm now the Chief Financial and Administrative Officer at Learning Policy Institute, which is a nonprofit education research think tank. As a first-generation college graduate whose life was changed by California's public schools, I am committed to supporting students to achieve their goals and for us to meet California's workforce needs. And of course, underpinning all of that is the work that must be done to make sure the district is financially stable and that we use our capital resources well. I look forward to our discussion this evening. Thanks.
Thank you. And Mr. Peterson.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Forrest Olaf Peterson. I started off as a concrete laborer for almost 10 years, working on concrete highways. I was in the laborers union where we make high wages, $60 an hour. I paid for my education that way, going through Chico State, community colleges. I went to DeAnza, Sierra College, went on to work on a degree in economics at the University of Nevada, Reno, continued with a PhD at Stanford Engineering and Civil Engineering. And then I did a postdoc at University of North Carolina in leadership and community college education. That background, where I've worked with extensively with the community college system, workforce education, both professionally teaching, research, assisting the community college system over the past 8 years with their curriculum and developing their programs, makes me uniquely prepared for community college leadership, where I've shown that leadership on the water board with the Bond Independent Monitoring Committee, where I oversee a massive budget at the water district, making sure that they properly have spent the money as a citizen oversight. So the community college has unique needs. The Foothill College has the agreement with the building trades, which I come from, where all the way out to Las Vegas, all of our electrical workers are certified through Foothill College through that apprenticeship program.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Peterson.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So now we're going to move on to the candidates answering questions that you all have submitted, and they will each have 1 minute to respond. The first question. This is the first time Palo Alto and Stanford voters have elected trustees by district. Explain the importance of this position to voters. Ms. Godfrey.
Thank you. This is the first time that we've had a Stanford and Palo Alto dedicated seat on the board. And it's important for a couple of reasons. One, specifically to Palo Alto and Stanford, is about 10 to 15% of our Pally and Gun students go directly to Foothill, and another 2 or 3% go directly to DeAnza. So Foothill is the most popular college that our kids go to. So that's one reason local folks might be interested. And on a broader scale, the students who come out of Foothill and DeAnza not only go directly to our UCs and CSUs and become our leaders and workers in the workforce, but we also have folks who go directly into the trades, who go directly into the kinds of workforce that we see every day, and that is making California's economy strong. So not only from sort of a California perspective is it important for us, but our students, not only those who matriculate there directly, but many who come back after doing some schooling elsewhere. Thanks.
Thank you. And Mr. Peterson.
And then one question, do we have I don't see a timer on my screen. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I just screwed over my screen. Okay, thank you. Ready?
You're welcome.
Okay.
Ready.
So having a district is unique. I've knocked on over 10,000 doors in Palo Alto in the neighborhoods, asking the community, what are their needs for the community college? In that time, I learned that many of the students from Palo Alto do not attend Foothill and DeAnza immediately. Oftentimes, students do go to a university and they return to go to Foothill or DeAnza. My understanding is 2% of the students, which comes down to about 20 students, will matriculate as a graduating senior as an incoming freshman at one of those colleges. That means that as a district, we have a unique need that's different than the rest of the district. And I think that hasn't been recognized until now. And I think that's the challenge that I take on. One of the issues is special education, which I become acutely aware of, the needs for Foothill-DeAnza, and the use of the campus facility for the theater, the library, and the other campus facilities is what's important. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Next question. How will you engage with students to find out their concerns? And we'll begin with Mr. Peterson.
So to engage with the students, so one of the things with the students here is that Foothill College and DeAnza, but Foothill specifically has the building trades programs, which means every sheet metal worker, which does all the HVAC system, every electrical worker, and every pipe trades worker. And so if you think of Genentech as a massive facility that's essentially a large brewery of chemicals, that's all built by those workforce. This is a high wage, high skilled workforce. So I've been interacting with that student body intensely, finally in tune of what are the needs of the students. It's something unique, having gone through the community college myself, as having an associate's transfer, that the building trades needs through the college are different than the rest of the students. Now, as for the rest of the students, I also am deeply in tune with that. I talk with the students, I listen to the student leadership, and I make sure that I follow what the students need. With the community college, it's slightly different at university, but I think I've shown
Thank
good
you,
use.
Mr. Peterson.
Thank you.
We'll need to move on. And Ms. Godfrey?
Thanks. As I mentioned earlier, I was on the Palo Alto School Board, and some of the lessons I learned there, I will carry forward to the Foothill-DeAnza board, particularly how to engage with students. So making yourself very available and accessible. And one of the ways you do that is that you show up where students are. So, you know, it might be ceremonies, it might be plays, it might be special days when there's ice cream socials or whatever. Ways to be on campus within the student body and have the chance just to talk to individual students and make it very clear that you are accessible, that you carry your cards with you all the time with your phone number and your email address on it, and say, please, 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 happy to talk to you anytime you want, wherever you like. And I have found that to be very effective, particularly with the high school students when I was in Palo Alto. So I am expecting that that is the same way I'll engage students on both the DeAnza and Foothill campuses. And of course, I get to enjoy the fruits of their labors when I get to see plays and such.
Thank you, Ms. Godfrey. Our third question. Foothill College currently offers BS degrees in dental hygiene and respiratory care, and DeAnza will offer a BS degree in automotive technology management starting in fall 2025. Should these programs be expanded? If so, what additional degrees should be offered? And Ms. Godfrey, you're next.
Thanks. As a board, I think we give overall direction on policy. And if we say, as a board together with the administration, that we want to expand four-year degrees into California's emerging workforce needs, then we work with our chancellor and encourage him to go off and talk to the business leaders in the region and in the state to see what we need. So that might be more electrification. That might be an obvious one is nursing. A four-year degree in nursing is coming, but not necessarily to our schools because they don't fall into the category of severely restricted. So understanding what legislation is happening, what the workforce needs are, is how we decide how we expand those four-year degrees and how we make them fit with the workforce of the future and how they fit with our region. So as I said, like nursing right now may come to us, and that would be a great boon for us, I would believe.
Thank you. Thank you for your response. And Mr. Peterson?
Thank you. I particularly enjoyed this question. I was on the team that created the second bachelor's program at Foothill-DeAnza, and that was in the construction pathway. It hasn't been announced yet, but this is a program that I'm proud to have worked on for 6 years, starting with the associate's degree. We formed it into an associate's. We worked to include the current curriculum that the pipe trades are including in their current education. And then we built that out into a pathway to include the entire four-year program. It took us 3 tries. We were declined twice, and we won on the 3rd try. I'm very proud of that. And the team that I worked with was incredibly skilled. There's an incredibly skilled group at Foothill, and I completely intend to continue using that lesson and that background to create more four-year programs at the community college. It was a fight, it was difficult, and it wasn't straightforward to win. And I think those are lessons that Foothill has in their pocket to continue to win. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll go on to our fourth question. There are many certificate programs offered. What specific programs would you support being added or expanded to align with workforce demands? And Mr. Peterson, we'll start with you, please.
So the certificate programs are interesting. I don't know if everybody on this call understands the certificate program at the community college. All of these things we're talking about has funding attached to it. If you achieve a certificate, the college, receives additional funding from the state for that. If there's a degree, if there's a course, everything, there's different levels on that. So these certificates are important. Expanding those certificates is incredibly difficult because you need to tie in with industry to let you know what is in demand, and what's in demand changes quickly. I keep going back to the lesson of the building trades, where because the building trades are so integrated with the construction companies, they have joint boards where they vote on what skills are going to be taught. I don't know if that's a model that replicates, say, to certificates in pre-veterinary care, things like this. But I definitely have a foundation to start asking those questions and start listening to answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Godfrey?
Thanks. So as I mentioned before, our Chancellor, Lee Lambert, is relatively new to the district. He started last summer. And one of the things that he has been focusing on is making sure that we understand what the workforce needs are so that the certificates offered map to the workforce needs. So I'm really looking forward to having those conversations with him as he's spending more time out with industry leaders and understanding what could be needed and what kind of partnerships we could have from a training perspective or lab perspective, so that when the workforce needs ramp up, we're ready, and that we have students who have what they need to go out straight into the workforce. So it's a little bit of a change in focus because with a new chancellor comes new ideas. And so I'm really looking forward to working with him on that. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, we are on our fifth question. Faculty and classified staff are some of the biggest stakeholders in the functioning of a community college. What is your role in supporting them and ensuring that they are fairly and adequately compensated? Ms. Godfrey.
Thanks for that question. Again, I think my experiences at the Palo Alto Unified School District will carry over to this work as well. One of the ways in those days was a little similar to how I kept in touch with students, was just keeping touch with faculty and staff and the union leadership, so that when conversations started, I had the background and had the context and had enough discussions that I understood what the needs were. And of course, as a board member, you are balancing all the different things that need to be balanced. And so it's great to have sort of a broad set of experiences from which you've learned from faculty and staff. We, of course, aren't the direct negotiators. We are the approvers of the contracts. And so it's great to have that chance to have seen both sides of it when you're trying to get to a decision. So being accessible and understanding the perspectives, I think, is really important.
Thank you. And Mr. Peterson.
Thank you. This is one of those opportunities where I can point back to what Terry said, and I think that was absolutely fabulous, which gives me the opportunity to build off of that statement. I do have the sole endorsement of the Faculty Association at Foothill-DeAnza. And a lot of that, I think, is just simply the representation of my background. I've worked in classified staff at the college. I've worked as faculty at 4 different community colleges. I work at Stanford as classified staff. And then at this point in my career, I've 30 years behind me of working in every aspect of industry you can imagine. I've been in the workforce, I've been hourly, I've been management, been the executive of startups. And, fair compensation is such a deep discussion. What is fair compensation? And of course, I think like Terry pointed out, there's bargaining committees that negotiate these contracts at the college. It's a unionized workforce. There's 5 different labor unions, each with their own contract. But I definitely am in tune and have been and will continue to be happy to
Thank
listen.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, our sixth question. Free speech is an important issue on college campuses. When divisive issues are brought up, what is an appropriate response to all campus stakeholders? Is there a response that gives both sides a win? And Mr. Peterson, for you first, please.
Oh boy, I got the tough question. So the free speech issue is not an idle issue today on college campuses, in particular not with DeAnza and Foothill. And this is a responsibility we have, and this is something I've taken time to really dive down into. And I've talked with a lot of stakeholders on this one, various community stakeholders, faculty, staff, students. One of the first things I would like to propose, this is probably the only time I'm going to put out a proposal, is I think we need a conflict resolution or de-escalation trained staff. I don't know if it would be, staff that's there, that this is an auxiliary role, that if there's a, a free speech event, but it's, a lot of my experience comes back where a lot of the conflict I've seen is on Stanford campus, where I think a lot of the students there have a background where students can step in and de-escalate. But from what I've heard at the community college is they need somebody that has that background to de-escalate.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Complicated question. And Miss Godfrey, for you.
Thanks. Yes, it is a complicated question because free speech is one of our founding tenets. But also on a campus, one of our founding tenets is access to education. And I don't just mean physical access. I mean students feeling welcome on campus, not feeling othered, not feeling threatened. And so it's a fine line to balance between the free speech rights of students on campus and the other students on campus who we want to make sure they don't feel threatened, that they feel welcome, that they can continue to pursue their education. So I support rules around not having blockades to buildings or having folks on campus who are not regular campus goers. So balancing the space to have free speech and balancing having the students be able to continue their education and engage with the folks who are demonstrating on campus. It's healthy, but we have to make sure everybody has access. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next question. What do you see as the greatest budget challenge for Foothill-DeAnza? What philosophy would you bring to the budget process? Ms. Godfrey, you're up.
So the 2023-2024 budget for the district is in pretty good shape. Starting 2025-2026, we will see changes in the funding that we get from the state. So we will see a plateau, and the chief budget officer, the district has been talking about it for a while now. So our challenge is not only how to deal with a budget plateau, but to make sure our faculty and staff are still getting fair compensation, that we're sticking to, there's a rule in the district that you have to spend at least half of your funds in the classroom. So when you have other support services, you need to balance those things. So dealing with this upcoming plateau is our biggest challenge financially in the near term, and trying to figure out how to keep cuts away from the classroom and how to make sure that we free up enough resources to make sure people are fairly compensated and that we still offer on both campuses a wide array of classes. Thanks.
Thank you. And Mr. Peterson?
Thank you. I think on this one here, I can stretch out a little bit on this question. We're living in difficult times, maybe even troubled times. The interest rates are dropped 0.5% today. This is a bit of an economic question. I come at it maybe from the macro. The big view is, we're in a bond inversion that's unprecedented going back before World War II. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the next 3 months or 3 years. We're also quite a ways into these issues. 2008, what was it? 2018, 2021, these are all years where we've had some spikes in the economy. And How we're going to navigate, I think, is going to be up to the leadership of this college. But I know one of the things we have going on our side is we have a great community. We have the Palo Alto, we have the rest of the community, and we have the ability to raise funds with bonds. And I think that's one of the assets we have that a lot of colleges don't. So we're going to be okay.
Thank you. Okay, we're up to question number 8. How do you view the role of community colleges in the California system of higher education? Mr. Peterson.
I think that one's great. I'm a living example of that. My job, it's hard to think back. It was, 30 years ago, I ran with a 5-gallon bucket on my shoulder of mud. I was a hod setter, it's a type of labor. And the experience from that role, because I came out of a high school where less than 20% of the students went to a university, and even fewer than that finished. Because if 20% go, you can pretty much guarantee many of those didn't finish. And if it was not for the community college, that was a springboard that gave me a chance, that was a ladder that step by step, rung by rung, I could climb with no outside help and go through the entire pathway to the highest levels at Stanford, go on to get a postdoc. Use the background noise. I'll yield a few seconds there. I'm outside here on the street on Cal Ave. I truly believe in the pathway to community college. And I think that's something that's very deeply held by me. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Godfrey.
Well, and as Forrest said, I deeply believe in the pathway of community college as well. Our 116 California community colleges serve 2 million students. And our 2 colleges within the Foothill-DeAnza district, about a third of those students are over 25. So it is not one path through. It is paths as a springboard to something other higher education. It's directly to a job. It's folks retraining for new jobs. It's community members just taking enrichment. I myself took a class in the winter, which, as a side note, reminded me I'm not that great at biology. And it really opens doors and pathways to so many things that really, across the spectrum of ages, interests, and goals. Some are career goals, some are just enrichment goals. Really the jewels in the crown of the California education system.
Thank you. Our 9th question. A new chancellor started in the role about a year ago. How do you view the relationship between the board and the chancellor? What role does each play in the governance of the district? Mr. Peterson.
We are very lucky. We have possibly one of the best chancellors in the Western United States. I think the state chancellor came to Foothill, it was 2 weeks ago now. She said the same thing. They've opened a new AI innovation center specifically at our district. And she said that was our Chancellor Lambert did that. He's hit the ground running. The relationship between the board and the chancellor, I don't think could be better. Everything I've heard from everybody on the board is nothing but praise for the chancellor. I've heard nothing but praise from the chancellor for the board. And I think this is a chancellor that is somebody who really values the community college system, the community college mission, and I think has a vision. I look back at the chancellor's work at their previous community college and saw that they left a legacy there that's incredible. And so I'm really looking forward to that here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Godfrey.
Well, and I will echo what Forrest said about the quality of the new chancellor. I've now seen him in action since he arrived. And he does bring a fresh perspective and some real focus on some of the things I'd like to focus on. But I think your question was a little bit about the relationship between the chancellor and the board. The board really has only a few jobs, setting policy, setting budget, and managing the chancellor. So his role is to understand the district needs and figure out how to get that work done and get that work done. Our role is to work with him to do that, to make sure that we understand the landscape. And when we set strategy and policy, we've got the best information we can to make those decisions. And then he's responsible for implementing it. So there is a very strong and tight relationship, and it will continue to be a strong and tight relationship. And we support him when he needs support because it's a very tough job. So having 5 thought partners is, I would hope, useful to him.
Thank you. Okay, use your imagination on this question. I'm a high school senior. Why should I consider community college? And Mr. Peterson.
Well, that goes right back to, we all have trades, our campaign slogans. Mine is beyond your trade skill. And really that's what it addresses is if you were a high school senior and you're coming out of high school today, the legacy of going to get a bachelor's, a master's, that's not the world that's in front of our students today. The workforce dynamics has changed. People don't even work from a workplace, they work from home. And I think one of the things is things are changing towards apprenticeship type education. Governor Newsom has a 2030 plan to expand the role of apprenticeship 5-fold. So I've recently been working with the Child Care Providers Union on their apprenticeship program for child care providers. And I think that's the future, is that for students to come out, look at a high wage, high skill occupation and have that be something that builds out into a pathway into a 4-year degree, which goes to a master's and a PhD if you want. And I think that's the reality of our world today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Godfrey?
Well, and as I outlined when we discussed sort of their value in the system, I think as a graduating senior, my goal is that every student has the opportunity to achieve their goals. And sometimes their goals are they want to go to a 4-year college in California or not in California. Going directly to Foothill-DeAnza can be the perfect answer for them, particularly for students who aren't ready to go away. Not all students, plenty of students go thousands of miles away and then come back because it's not always the easiest transition. So for some of those students, for cost or just personal reasons, want to go directly, their chances of getting into one of our California 4-year schools goes up about 10-fold. For folks who want to go more quickly to the workforce, Forrest's answer covered many of those things. And for students who want to try out even before they are a senior and do dual enrollment, they can get a taste of what it's like to be there. There's many options.
Thank you. Question number 11. What are your thoughts on the balance between providing online flexible class options for students who may be working or parenting and having learning and community building benefits of an on-campus class? And Ms. Godfrey, would you start, please?
Sure. This also is a question that I have at work as a chief financial and administrative officer in a hybrid workforce. So both Foothill and DeAnza offer about 60% of their classes online, and then another like 10 to 20% is hybrid. So they're already fully in this mode, of course, through pandemic, like many of us experienced. And the opportunity for students to attend these classes from remote distances. Like I mentioned, I took a class in the winter, and one of the students in my class was in Kansas and had 3 kids, and she was doing it when her kids were in school, was really heartening because she was getting what she needed. Now, as you mentioned, it is a little harder to build community on campus. So you have to be a little more focused about when students will be on campus and how to engage them, because it is a different environment now. So you have to decide what you're going to do to encourage connectedness on campus, and then go and focus on those versus the old model where you just focused on everything.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Peterson?
I'm going to split my answer here into 2 sides, because one is the role of the trustee, which, is policy, and we can set policies that will encourage these type of curriculums. But the other one is the role of fixing the leaky pipeline of students. I was a student parent at Stanford University. I fought heavily. Some people might have said too much for the women in academia. So many women in my research group and my colleagues weren't able to finish their PhD simply because they had a kid and were seen as non-academic. Now, that doesn't just mean because you're at the top tier university. It's the same thing at a community college. And my standing to protect the role of women in academia and all parents, and making sure that people can get their education, that they have proper child care centers, accommodations for parents. Title IX is just something I'm absolutely passionate about. And I made sure at Stanford University is a better place on that. But on policy, we have project-based learning, asynchronous education,
And thank
and I'm
you.
completely experienced in that. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Okay, let's see where we are. We're at question 12. What effect does declining enrollment have on the district? And what can be done to grow enrollment and sustain the college programs? Mr. Peterson.
Finding funding is something that we have to find enrollment, and that's an issue. To give a real example, I recently was at Gavilan College for, I think, 3 years, helping them build out one of their new programs. And, sometimes I take on these consulting roles with the college, but this time here I said, look, just make me a faculty member. I'll jump in the classroom and I'll just make it happen. And so I took that program from 0 students to, they now have over 300. And, like Terry mentioned earlier, dual enrollment. We brought in 200 students through dual enrollment alone. I mean, sometimes it's just creativity, but it's also having quality programs, doing the outreach, make the relationships with industry, and provide a service. I mean, at the end of the day, the community college is there. The building trades have the same thing. I keep going back to the building trades because it's a world standard of excellence that I think we can replicate elsewhere, is having that tight fit with industry, finding out what's the skills that industry needs, produce those skills, and then reskill workers as things change. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Godfrey?
Sure. We both Foothill-DeAnza enrollment is starting to increase again. So of course, like many other schools during pandemic, enrollment dropped. Our district is not basic aid. Our district gets their funding based on student enrollment. Potentially it will be basic aid someday, but it's not for now. So student enrollment drives funding. So the demographics are changing in California. We don't have as many college age students, particularly in our region. And so creating programs that are more specific to older students is important. Marketing to older students. And these are things I'm not making news here. These are things that the district is already working on, marketing to students who are not in the demographic that's coming directly out of high school, students who are coming back to California, or older students who are retraining. That's a more likely place for us to grow.
Thank you. Okay. Question number 13. How would you balance the sustainability goals outlined in the Sustainability Action Plan with the need to expand and upgrade facilities with limited budgets? Ms. Godfrey.
Thank you. The existing board has taken some pretty ambitious sustainability goals, and each decision that we make is student-centered. And student-centered also means making sure that we're meeting the sustainability goals. So there are times when those will be short-term more expensive. And so we will have to make those decisions around when it makes sense to do that. You may be familiar with the Foothill pool that's needs to be replaced, and all the discussion around using heat pumps versus using natural gas boilers, and why it's important to get to the sustainability goals. And to be honest, many times they will cost more. They may cost less in the long run, but we need solid advice from external folks who understand what it takes to get these kinds of things done. And then we just have to have the kinds of discussions that it takes to say, in the short run, we may spend more.
Thank you. Your time is up. And Mr. Peterson?
On this one here, I have to say again, I have the second answer. Luxury of saying everything Terry said was absolutely perfect. I've just spent the last 18 years of my life at Stanford in the Center for Integrated Facilities Engineering, which is specifically a research center dedicated to how do we operate large facilities, whether that's on a citywide scale, an individual house, or a college campus. and do that efficiently with carbon neutral. Everything I've heard at the college, in fact, I saw about a half dozen of my colleagues from the university there in the trustees meeting talking about the swimming pool and how do we heat the pool while trying to stay on track with these good goals that the college trustees have set. And I agree. I think that we show leadership for the rest of the community by spending the extra money and doing the right thing. And I'm fully committed. You know, I'm a strong environmentalist, and I believe that the future depends on our ability to be carbon neutral.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Question number 14. Many students are housing insecure. What role should the board and the district play in providing housing? Mr. Peterson.
This one's an absolute yes. I fought for housing at Stanford. Again, you know, when it comes with, you know, with childcare for students that are parents is housing. You need housing on campus. It's also for the workforce. The workforce is coming in and retraining. Most all the apprenticeship training programs have on-site housing. They have dormitories, short-term or long-term. You know, I run education programs. I've got probably over a dozen high school dual enrollment faculty that we work with. And a lot of when we work with the adult level students, kind of returning to the workforce. We have a MC3 program. But anyways, for time, they specify, they always do projects about campus housing. And so I can see the housing right now that Foothill is building, which was the work of Joe Smitty to fight to get that housing and to bring that package together. And we have more of those projects. We have Cupertino student housing. So I'm a strong advocate for housing.
Thank you. And Ms. Godfrey.
Like Forrest, also an advocate for housing, because we not only do we have a housing shortage for students, but of course in our whole region. And so what we can do is try and address the student housing issue. The bond that was passed in 2020 was almost $900 million. The current board created a sort of a pool of dollars from that bond of about $200 million to put towards student housing. The current thinking is putting some housing near the DeAnza campus or at the edge of the DeAnza campus, because students would need access to the things that you have in town, like grocery stores and restaurants and the like, and potentially even some faculty housing on the Foothill campus. Now, this work is already underway. My expectation is if and when I join the board that I would continue to support that work. There's also a very interesting proposal about putting a Magical Bridge community on campus as well, on the Foothill campus, and I would love to explore that more.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is going to offer you both a choice. Pick one of these two questions to answer. What excites you the most about this job? Or what would success look like for you as a trustee? And Ms. Godfrey, you're first.
I'm going to take the second of the questions. One of the reasons I want to do this is because I want all students to have the kinds of opportunities that I had. And one of the issues on both of the campuses is meeting the basic needs. For example, on the Foothill campus, there's about half the students are food insecure. On the DeAnza campus, it's about a third of the students, and like 30 or 40% of students are housing insecure. These are the kinds of things that make it very hard to learn. So what success would look like to me is not only creating the infrastructure to meet those needs, but having students actually feel the improvements, because if they don't feel it, it's not there. So there's also mental health needs. About half the DeAnza students say that mental health issues are getting between them and success. So there are already clearly defined needs. Meeting those needs so students can hit it out of the park would make me very happy.
Thank you. And Mr. Peterson, which one would you like to answer?
I'll take the other question then. So the what excites me about the role of the trustee is the ability to affect change. So this is going to be the trustee role that sees that transition of the workforce into the change in what the change of the change of what you need to know happens faster than anyone's one education. You can't learn something at 18 to 22 that's going to carry you through the rest of your career. Um, and having the workforce come back, one thing I'd like to see is agreement with the county workforce, that the county workforce comes in rotating roles and goes through where their job is to literally go into the community college and just relearn new technology. And I think that is the essence of it. I could continue in private practice. I haven't hit on the private education programs that I run, but I could continue to do that. But by moving back over to the public space, I think I can do much more with the successes that I've shown already.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, it's your lucky day. You all get a bonus question. Please tell us about an event or a program on either campus that community members should attend. Mr. Peterson.
Well, it's the apprenticeship education, the graduation for sure. To see hundreds of tradespeople who don't see themselves as students graduate with college degrees, with good skills. I mean, these are people who, make $225,000 a year on graduation before you count overtime. But to have that degree put in their pocket and to have no idea what that degree does for you 10, 15 years down the road. But when you have that associate's degree, it opens up the door to the university. And it also gives you the ability, you can go work, you can shift over to the classified staff where, what your degree is and number of units directly relates to what you're paid. So I think there's a lot of good experiences in seeing that pragmatic, real essence of what the community college does at the end of the day, where, it's dollars and cents.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Godfrey?
I'm going to use a graduation example as well. So thank you for that, Forrest. One of my favorite events on campus is middle college graduation. So for those who aren't familiar with middle college, it's an opportunity for high school students to do part of their high school on campus. It's a relatively small community. They get to know each other well. They have core teachers for their core subjects. Then they take their other classes in the community college general population. So by the time they get to the end of that, they're a very tight-knit group. They've had this great experience. Frequently, there's students who, for one reason or another, the high school just wasn't the right place for them. So, for example, one of my neighbors, I recall, really she was one of those kids who was an adult when she was born. She didn't want to mess with high school students. She wanted to get right at it. And so seeing those kids blossom in that environment is really gratifying. So if you ever go to middle college graduation,
Thank
please.
You. Okay. Well, we're getting close. It's getting to be time for the final question. And you will have 1.5 minutes to answer. And we're going to start. So let me give you the question. Sorry. Okay. What question do you wish we had asked in this forum that we didn't ask you? Mr. Peterson, you start, please.
Thank you. I had to move back inside here. My phone was dying. So the question I wish you had asked me is, I think the question about community college, community college is about redemption at the end of the day. It's also about a path forward, but it's also a place where people have second chances. And I think that's something it's always there, but there's funding at the community college. There's a community there. And I think things like mental health, the community aspect of it, how do you bring people into that fold of making them feel included where maybe they never felt included? And I think the community college is something where it creates community. And I know the name community college it's about community, but it's that community where it brings people and makes them into good people, better people. And I think that's, if I was going to pick something, that would be it. And so to go on that a little bit more, earlier I talked about the MC3 program, which is a trades orientation program that's run through a group called Working Partnership USA, which gives formerly incarcerated people a chance at getting a wage while they go through education. I brought those students in and included them in a Stanford program to give them continuing education credits and start getting them a certificate, a piece of paper in their pocket that says Stanford University Continuing Studies. And I think that transcript that the community college provides is a
Thank
lot.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And your closing statement and to this question, Ms. Godfrey.
So I think the question was, what question do I wish you had asked me? And I wish you had asked me, do you know what you're getting yourself into? And I do, right? I've been on a school board before. The Palo Alto School Board is a very involved community, students with all kinds of different backgrounds and needs. And having been in that space, I know that I love to do this work. I also know that day to day it can be tough. Balancing budgets is tough. Doing capital plans is tough. And things come up that you just do not expect to happen. And so I feel like for me, I understand my temperament. I understand the way I like to govern. I like to be in touch with the community. I like to make sure we get a lot of community input. That can be hard and complicated, but for me, it's really, you get to a better answer in the end, and you don't surprise the community with things that that they haven't had a chance or maybe sort of missed the opportunity to be involved in. So all those different kinds of things for me make it a very rich and collaborative experience. And I'm willing to do the parts of it that are maybe are less fun. Like I said, I've been in finance, HR, organizational design, all those things for years. So those things are my skill set that I bring, that I'm happy and willing to do, so that I can do all this fun stuff with community and the students and making sure that each student has the opportunity to reach whatever their goals are. So do I know what I'm getting myself into? Yes, I think I do.
Thank you. All right. We're just about ready to wrap up. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Palo Alto, I thank you, candidates, for your dedication to run in office and also for your vibrant participation in this forum. I thank our audience for their engagement in the democratic process. For the November 5th general election, the Santa Clara Leagues are also hosting forums for many other races. Visit the League of Women Voters of Santa Clara County website, where you can find videos of those forums. Check out vote411.org. There you will find nonpartisan, expanded information about the candidates and ballot measures, and links to other sources of information about the upcoming election. For the November 5th general election, all California voters will receive vote-by-mail ballots, which will be mailed starting October 7th. Vote early by mail or by dropping off your ballot at a secure ballot drop box. Visit a vote center on or before Election Day if you need assistance or require a replacement ballot. Find vote centers and days and hours of operation in your ballot information packet. Encourage your family, your friends, your neighbors to vote in this election. Thank you all. Vote November 5th.
Thank you, League.
Thank you as well.